everybody, and thank you for sticking around with us at our very pre-PDAC mining showcase here on Friday. I have the distinct pleasure of introducing to you Ben Whiting, who's the president and CEO of Orex Minerals, doing some great work out of Mexico with a couple pretty big players down there. So in the interest of time here, I'll pass it off to you, Ben, to give us the thesis and why this should be added to at least to the watch list of the viewership here.
Thank you very much, Seb, and I'd like to thank all your colleagues at Red Cloud. You fellows, men and women at Red Cloud do an excellent job. Okay. Let's see. I'll be making some forward-looking statements. One of them, an example, is a diamond drilling program that we just had our technical committee meeting on, and that we plan to be drilling on the Sandra project with our joint venture partners, Pan American. That's the purpose of forward-looking statements, but we won't worry about the little fine print on those. We're part of the Belcara Group, and the Belcara Group is financial and technical personnel that we can exchange ideas with. So as a junior mining company with a small market cap, we have access to a larger talent base than you would normally have as a single company. So currently there are three companies in the Belcara Group. It's Orex Minerals, Silver Viper Minerals, and Barcellay Minerals. And you can see some of the people that are on this list. The most recent additions, Alicia Ford joined us in the business development, and David Gunning is a newer director. He's a mining engineer by background. Okay. As far as the capital structure and ownership, what I'd like to point out here is that Ingalls and Snyder of New York, US Global of Texas, Eric Sprott in Toronto, are all investors, and the institutional position is about 65%. Fresnillo, the world's largest silver mining company, has equity interest in the company as well at about 3%, and management also participates at about 15%. We do have cash on hand. It's about $3.7 million. But what I'd also like to point out is that Orex holds a 2% NSR on the Barcellay gold deposit in Sweden. So that's an additional asset to anything we'll be talking about here, because Barcellay was a spin-out from Orex, where shareholders ended up with shares in both companies. And I'd like to thank Kobe Kushner of Red Cloud Securities. He's now doing analyst coverage. So I'll emphasize the top two projects here, Sandra project and Coneto project, with Pan American Silver and Fresnillo as our joint venture partners. We also have the Canadian Jumping Josephine project. So in the heart of the Mexican silver belt is the state of Durango. It's up on the high plateaus. On the western side of the state, you're into the Sierra Madre Mountains, and the Mesa Central, or the high plateau, is in the central part. And a lot of the big silver players are in this belt. So Fresnillo has their main mines in here. La Colorada is Pan American Silver. La Parrilla is First Majestic. San Sebastian is Hecla. You can see La Preciosa. That was one of our discoveries within the Belcara Group. And just to the north, that is our project in Coneto with Orex. And we have the Sandra Escobar project, which is not too far from Guanaceví, which is Endeavor Silver. So what you can see here is the major silver players are all invested in this particular belt. Here we are in beautiful ranching country. It's Coneto. This is the village of Coneto-Diamond. The hill that you see just behind the village there is called La Bufa, and some of the gold silver zones are on that hill. It goes an equal distance beyond that hill and twice as far behind me from where I took this picture. It's a large land package of this mining camp. The mining camp itself is a window of the favorable rocks that expose the lower volcanic succession with these epithermal silver gold veins in it. It's about 17 kilometers by 4 kilometers where it's exposed into the favorable geological units. Surrounding the areas are the upper volcanics, which are later rhyolites, and they tend to mask areas. Okay. So Coneto Camp itself has a long mining history. It goes back over 450 years of mining when the conquistadors came through here. Having said that, the mining from the early days only went down to about the water table on some of the higher veins, the higher grade veins that they could work with. But that isn't the extent of the veins. The veins go much further. And some veins that were not mined in the early days have decent grades at surface and continue down. So the mining was less than 100 meters down in the past. And we know that the veins carry on for over 300 meters in a vertical extent. Fresnillo being our joint venture partner, they own 55%. They've spent just over $6 million on the project. And SRK just recently completed the first NI 43-101 resource estimate on the project. Here's an example of some grades in various veins. So you've got Impulsora, Loma Verde, La Bufa, Santo Nino. What I point out here is that it is a gold silver camp. As you go down further, you'll start to enter in base metals, but we've emphasized the gold and silver at this stage. Some of the holes, like the Santo Nino intercept there, down the drill hole is almost 400 meters, but that's vertically about 300 meters below surface. The same is true for the Durazno intercepts that you see there, that those are deeper intercepts. Durazno's not yet in the resource, but you can see that we do have gold and silver in Durazno, and that's part of the future for this project, would be exploring Durazno further. We did metallurgy this past season, and the metallurgical recovery was excellent. So it's very typical intermediate to low sulfidation silver systems. That 5 of the zones, they average over 93% recovery for gold, highest at 98.5. Silver was still being digested at the 96th hour of the digestion process, and it's up in the 80s for a lot of those ones. So on Coneto, we have 106 drill holes for 38,000 meters plus on 12 of the targets. But there are over 40 major veins, about 50 veins so far that have been documented on the project. 12 targets, 6 of them have been modeled for resources that had sufficient holes in them for resource calculation. This is what the material looks like, oxide minerals. It's at Loma Verde. In the upper levels, it looks like this with the gold and silver values. As you get deeper, this one is in Santo Nino, and you can see the boiling textures in the rocks. As a geologist, we get excited when we start seeing rocks like this. And we also see that at this level, we're starting to get the introduction of base metals that would be credits for deeper portions of a deposit. Here we've got copper, lead, and zinc being introduced, as well as the gold and silver. Just beautiful rock. The 6 zones that are in the resource estimate are La Bufa and Santo Nino north of the village. Loma Verde is just to the west of the village. And then as you're going to the southeast, you've got Descubridora, Impulsora, and Promontorio. This is it. This is the first maiden inferred mineral resource estimate. And you can see here that it is in gold as far as ounces, 286,000 ounces with 16 million ounces of silver. Gold equivalent would be about 538,000 ounces. So we're past the 500,000 ounces of gold equivalent. Silver equivalent, for people that think of it in those terms, would be about 40 million ounces of silver. Shifting a little to the north, we're on the Sandra project. It's a joint venture partnership with Pan American Silver, a large land package. Right in the center of this shot, you can see a little green dot. That little green dot is the drill shed, the tarps that are on the drill rig. And on this hillside, there are about 65 drill holes. But we maintain a very low impact as far as the environment. We use man-portable rigs and recover the grounds as we retreat from a project. This is where the Valeris discovery was made by our team on this Sandra project. So the mapping, now that is now completed in the Cerro Rojo area, Belarus is in the southeast, and Cerro Rojo was part of claims that belonged to Pan American Silver. They bought out our joint venture partners, and so then they created the new joint venture, and their ground to the north has also been added to this ground. Structurally, lots of vein systems through here, but trends are northwest, southeast is the major trends. In the area of the Belarus, it's a lower temperature area of mineralization with manganese oxides and hydroxides. As you move to the northwest, you get into the little Mina San Francisco, little artisanal mine, and that shows sulfides in that location with some high grades. And as it carries on, it's a temperature gradient that we're probably moving towards the feeder systems for this as we move towards the northwest. So this is some of the planning for phase 1 and phase 2 in the 2022 project. In the Belarus discovery itself, the discovery drill hole would have been in December of 2015, and it was right from surface, 61 meters, 43 meters true thickness of 359 grams of silver. So it's a very beautiful little deposit that's sitting there right on the hillside with low stripping ratios and a good thickness. It's in a rhyolite crystal lithic tooth. The resource estimate on the Belarus deposit is 33 million ounces of silver. This is what it looks like in cross sections. You can see a very low stripping ratio on this particular set. It's a horizontal unit where the fluids probably flowed laterally because it was very permeable, and the rock unit above it was a cap rock, so it was less permeable, and it just funneled into this horizon. This is what the material looks like at the Belarus deposit. There are high-grade spikes when you get these little quartz veins, stringers. That's a 1.2 kilograms of silver per ton in the lower left. The average rock looks like concrete. So the upper left one is 254 grams of silver in a gray-looking rock. That's your crystallithic tooth. Because there's no pyrite in this part of the deposit, that's why there was no gossan that attracted people at an earlier stage. So no mining has ever taken place in this spot. As you look into the distance from where the pickup truck is in that top picture, pickup truck is sitting on the Belarus deposit. In the distance is Cerro Rojo, and in between there is where our next phases of drilling as we march towards that northwest. We're looking towards the northwest. There's the little San Francisco artisanal mine in the lower left. Our core sheds are ready and the team is ready to carry on this project. As a forward-looking statement, the filing of the permit applications with SAMRNAT, the government agency, is happening this week. Jumping Josephine is the third project in the portfolio. It's one that is currently under CAs being evaluated for possibly optioning out or sale. And it's located in the Kootenay region of British Columbia. It's about 40 kilometers north of Teck's smelting operations in Trail. It has a gold specific, nice plum of gold at surface. This is a surface resource. So the mineral resource summary with the three projects brings us up to about 78 million ounces of silver equivalent. Orex share, because some of these are joint ventures, is sitting at about 36 million ounces of silver in the three different projects that we have here. Some indicated and some inferred. There are technical reports on all three of these. So it's important these days to talk a little bit about ESG, which is environmental, social, and governance of companies. These are very site specific. What does the local community need? What are the objectives? In this case, we're on the Sandra project, and one of the things that they requested is that we aid them in rebuilding a lot of their presas, their dams on the ranch country, so that as the rains come, they're able to capture more of the water to support their ranching. So that's an example of community relations activities. So the Orex Advantage current activities, excellent metallurgy. We've got SRK's recommendation for the next phase of exploration on Coneto. The Sandra project, we've completed the lithogeochemistry and mapping for new target identifications. We've got a 2022 diamond drilling program to commence on quarter number 2. Community engagement carries on, and acquisitions. There are reviews of new property submissions that are underway as well, because Mexico is such a wonderful place to be working. So that's basically it. 3 jurisdictions, a team that's done it before. We've got an office in Durango and a local team, and there is more to be discovered. Thanks a lot.
Thanks, Ben. That's great. You know, it never ceases to amaze me your group's ability to bring in substantial partners in these projects. I mean, Pan Am and Fresnillo are no slouch, but what I would ask you is, obviously, it's just starting with Coneto, with SRK's recommendation to have an additional 6.4 million spent there. When do you expect to have a decision from Fresnillo whether they will be coming along with you on that, or if you will be getting 100% of the project back, which would be great for your evaluation as well? So it's almost a win-win at the moment, I would believe.
There are 2 different approaches. You're right. Does that particular project fit Pan American's needs as a major corporation? Their sort of cutoff value for a lot of projects is in the 200 to 300 million ounces of silver. To make a move on the needle for a company, a multi-billion-dollar company like Fresnillo. So they are considering whether we should collectively combine our interests and place it with a mid-tier company, or whether to turn it over to Orex and do another joint venture, in which case the negotiation would be a combination of cash and shares, and both options have advantages within the company. Do I see it becoming 300 million ounces of silver in the short term? No. But is it possible? You know, if you carry on, we've done work and we've drilled over 100 drill holes, and we have 40 million ounces. So we're part of the way there, but it may be more suitable to a mid-tier company. So negotiations are open.
No, that's very good. And then as far as Sandra and Pan American are concerned, do you, the next drill program and the catalysts that are going to come out of that program, and what do you see? Obviously, you got the stamp of approval from Pan American just recently, and you're going to be starting the program in short order. Can you maybe just go over what that timeline is going to look like, how the backup at labs are, and all these kinds of things, so people can expect the news flow in the second half of this year?
Okay. Anything that's a definitely forward-looking statement, Haseb, is forward-looking statement. The report goes into the government. It's Informe Preventivo. It's a report that talks about the environment of the project. The same environmental consulting firm that did our last Informe Preventivo is doing this one as well. So they're very familiar with the area. Objectively, I would say that the government may respond within about 45 days. So you can't really do anything until that point. We are looking at the sources of water in the area. There's a bit of a dry spell. The last time we ran a project right on this site during a dry season portion, we brought the water in by trucking it in rather than disturbing the ranchers who were there. There are aquifers in the region, but we'd rather not tap into those at this time. And so we're negotiating the source of water for the diamond drilling. When we're going to start, it will be in the second quarter, but the assays, the laboratories, Durango has some excellent laboratories. It has SGS Mineral Services, and it has Bureau Veritas right in Durango. So our last turnarounds on those were about the 4 weeks. So from the time that we make an announcement that the drills are on site, then you drill a hole and you you log it and you sample it, and then you send it off to the assays. It'll probably be a 6 or 7 weeks from that point.